Hi, my name is Nina Boski, and thank you so much for joining us on Mental Health Mondays. I am excited about this next guest because one, he's a wonderful human being, but two, he's a fellow coach. He's a business coach, a career coach. He's certainly been on the radio. He's dynamic. He's written books, and he has an upcoming book coming out called The Back 40, right? And it's about basically embracing seven essential embraces to launch life's radical second half. And I just have to say, welcome to the show because I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thanks, Nina. I love your show. I've caught some of your previous episodes. It's wonderful work you're doing.
Well, you know, it's so interesting. Gary Vitaco Robles and myself, who's the mental health professional on the Maryland Project, he and I started doing just our own talking about mental health, addiction, the correlation between mental health and addiction issues. And then kind of more from there, because I used to do a long time radio show like you did as well, Life Bites Radio back in the day. And, Life Bites is all about bringing resources and information and people to get them thinking about their life. And certainly the back 40 is one of those times that we certainly have to look at. And I know that if Marilyn would have lived longer, her second half of the life, although I have to tell you something, Darrell, back in Marilyn's day, 36 years old was midlife. You got to start thinking about you're getting older as an actress and stuff as well. So why the back 40? Why did you even want to write a book like this?
I don't know. Well, I don't know that I wanted to write a book. The idea came to me. And it turned out to be the book that I needed to read. So it all came about. I was 40 and I was in the middle of a $500,000 custody suit around my son. And it was, I think, 11:45 in the evening. I was looking at my son sleeping in my bed because my parents were downstairs sleeping in his bed because they had come into town to help me, mentally, emotionally, mostly financially, with this custody suit. And I just felt the lowest I'd ever felt in life. I kind of, at 40, I thought, what do I have to show for myself? I just, felt this big kind of neon loser over my forehead. And call it what you want. I call it a download. But something just kind of spoke to me and said, what if you're exactly where you're supposed to be? What if everything in your life has been exactly as it was supposed to be so that you now fulfill on who you came here to be and what you came here to do? What if it's all about the second half as opposed to that you're supposed to be somewhere or have made it or something like this in the first half? And that was the origin of the idea.
I just have to say something around this because I think what you're saying is so important. And I have a feeling there's a lot of people out there, particularly over the last year that we've had, that may be in the shoes that you were at 40. They may be 35. They may be 50. They may be going through something in their life. And, we have these images that we grow up with, and A plus B equals C. It's not always the case, right? Look at Betty White. I mean, she's in her, mid-90s now, right? I mean, she talked about a second half, right? She really has. But it doesn't mean that Betty White can have it and you can't. So what is the book about? Because you're talking about these 7 essential elements that you really need. What are they?
Well, the book is based on a premise that what if the first half of life was just R&D, research and development?
I'm sorry, that is the funniest thing. I love it. It is so true. I think back in my 20s, all the exploration I was doing compared to in my, midlife right now, right?
Yeah. I mean, like you said, we grow up in a society that kind of tells you where you should be and how you have to have it all sorted out. And, you need to make it, by a certain age. But the idea that, well, what if everything that's occurred has been perfectly designed? I even call it laboratories. What if that first marriage was a laboratory? What if your marriage right now is a laboratory? What if it's all laboratories, both in the past and now, all of them designed to have you be able to become who you came here to be, right? And so, again, when that idea hit me, it kind of freed me up, because it's like, oh, okay, what if it's not over? What if it's just beginning?
Oh, I love that, because I think, one, we're living longer. Two, it's not, when our parents were, you know, in their life of working and establishing themselves, they worked for one company all their lives. You know, now what's happening is that we have a lot more options, we have a lot more ability, and a lot of times, you know, because we are living longer, you know, what is that, you know, the new 60 is the new 40, right? I mean,
Right.
there's a lot of that premise there, but our mindsets haven't changed. And that's what I'm hearing you say, because you have a much more open mindset to this element, maybe not at 40 at that moment, but that download, or whatever you want to call it, allowed you to explore and get curious versus shut down and get bitter.
Yeah, and you're really you're hitting on some key words there. This idea of curiosity. I'll share more about that when I walk through the embraces. But going back to what you're talking about, is that we come into a society, and generally accepted societal wisdom gives us a bell curve of our life experience. You know, you go to school, or you learn a trade, and you get married, and you have kids, and you amass some stuff, and you got a home, but after 40 or 50, you know, 60 for sure, your best is considered behind you. Your best earning, your best creativity, your best ingenuity, your best hot sex, you know, all of that is kind of behind. Yeah. And there's this idea of retirement. You know, we grow up into a world where retirement is this thing that we're going towards. You know, I don't know if you know, but
going out to the pasture, Darrell.
Well, and by the way, there is a double entendre with the title, the back 40. You know, in ranching terms, the back 40 is that big uncultivated patch of land behind the ranch that has unlimited growth potential.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay. That's
well,
good.
If you watch Dallas, I grew up in Texas, you know, they always refer to the back 40. But the point is what if our second half is that as well? All uncultivated, huge growth potential. So the idea is that we're given this down and out model, but what if that's BS? What if that's just a belief system that we were fed? And retirement, the root of retirement means to draw back. Retire, the Latin roots are to draw back. And what if, and again, it's all a belief system. Your world is created by a belief system. But what if we change that cultural conversation to the idea of up and out versus down and out? What if everything that you've done in the past, everything that's happened to you, and look, even the traumatic things, even mostly the traumatic things, the things that you to this day think it would have been great had that not happened because it shaped my life, it affected me, it limited me, or something like that. If you can actually analyze all of what's happened to you inside a model of looking for what's the perfection of it, why was it exactly the way it needed to be to have you become who you came here to be? What are the self-expression directives out of all those laboratories? Then guess what? It's up, 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 and up. And you mentioned Betty White. She's just like, you know, she's poster woman, you know.
No, I love this. And it really does boil down to a mindset, Darrell, because one of my other fellow coaches, she's now 75, but at the time she was 72. And she was in the best shape. I mean, she could do a 15-minute plank. I mean, we're talking some like she was in really good shape. She wanted to do where not a bodybuilder, but one of those where you actually you were in such shape in this competition where you're in a bikini, 72 years old. She looks better than some 40-year-olds that I know, right? Belief system. I can talk to somebody in their 50s and they're talking about the world is coming to an end and it's closed, and I could never do that. So what would you say to, and then we'll get to the 7 steps here, but what would you say to somebody that actually doesn't have the belief system? Because that's where it all starts.
Yeah, well, you know, it's like you can only speak to the ears that are available to hear, you know, and, you know, all of education and all of you as a coach and all of what we do in terms of inspiring messages is to put it out there. And yet I think exactly where I was at 40, where I thought I had just lost it, that there was nothing I had to show for myself. You know, I think the first thing is hope and curiosity. You mentioned that word curiosity. You know, the or society tells us that we're supposed to grow in wisdom. And as we get older, we become wise. And, you know, to some degree, there may be some truth to that. I think to a great degree, our wisdom becomes our prison, because certain things happen to us in life. And again, even those traumatic events. And the problem is that we make decisions about the way life is based on those things that occurred. This is the way women are. You know, how many guys do you know who've given up on relationship because they've been married or divorced? Or how many women do you know who've been with guys?
Those men, you know, etc. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, you know, I'm giving up on that game, right? Because this is the way they are, or this is the way life is, or this is the way a career's supposed to be. So I think, like I said, whatever that magical pill is that gives people hope, and then allows them to start thinking differently. And that is the big key. And you talk about mindset. What is it that allows us to start thinking differently? You look at 20-year-olds, and they're creating the new technologies. They're creating all these things because guess what? They're playing. They don't have anything they got to prove, because they're kind of new in life, and they're, you know, they don't care about falling on their face.
And also the responsibilities. I think that's what also happens. You can get bitter or better as you get older. You know, it's like, how much of those traumas are you going to let weigh you down, and how are you going to move through them to give you space to create something new, right?
Yeah, no, exactly. And, you know, there's, you know, psychologists that say we're either moving towards isolation and degradation, or we're going to move towards, you know, expression and generativity, right? But I guess what I think gets in our way is that because of all the way life's supposed to be, you get to be 40, 50, or 60, you don't want to take risks, you don't want to fall on your face, you don't want to look like you don't know what you're doing, and so then life closes in, right? As opposed to what would be possible if we gave ourselves at 40, 50, or 60 room and a community and space to play and try and fall on our face, because we cannot grow. We can't do new things. You know?
It's so true. And, you know, I see a difference even in myself. I've always been a bold risk taker, etc. Now, wisdom, trial and error, whatever, is like, I'm going to take a calculated risk versus let me jump off the cliff, and who cares if I fall and I break every bone in my body? I know I can get up, right? Not so much at 50 or 60, right? When you go, oh man, you know, can I really do this? And I do think, though, you can. It really is a belief system. I know an 85-year-old coach out of Texas, right? Oh my gosh. I mean, she's going skydiving, she's doing, I mean, she doesn't buy into that belief system at all, but it really does boil down to, first and foremost, what are the other steps that you have to take people through? Because you're not only building out this book and getting it out there in the world, but you're building a community, which I think is really important and actually very needed in our society, because everybody, advertisers, media always talks to the young. They don't always talk to the people that are in their second half of their life.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. We were speaking for a group a year or so ago. And again, just as the ideas are coming together, the book's coming together, we're starting to build a community. But someone in the group said, yeah, you notice the 20-year-olds and the 25-year-olds, society is saying, rah, rah, you can do it. Go get it. You can do it. Nobody's saying that for the 40, 50, or 60-year-olds. If they haven't done it yet, if they haven't proven themselves, it's kind of like society says, okay, yeah, you didn't make it, right? Yeah. But that's exactly the reason we want to build this community, because even though these ideas have kind of come through me and I've, been able to translate them into a book, and we've done some initial 3-day courses even to see how these ideas land with people, and they landed well. So the point is, though, is that none of these ideas on their own, each of us alone in isolation, we still won't take the risk. We need that cheering crowd. We need, the support. So the book takes the reader through 7 what I call essential embraces to launch life's radical second half. And we use the word radical because, some people are like, whoa, radical. But again, that's the whole risk-taking thing. But what if your future was not in any way limited by your past? What if nothing that's ever happened to you? What if there's been nothing that has ever occurred in your life that has put any limitation on you? What if it was blue sky? Okay. But guess what? We got to do that brainwashing, right? Because we bought into all of these ideas of what it is to get older, what's really possible. So the first embrace is embracing your past. And
how do you do that for people that haven't ever looked at their past, maybe, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people haven't looked at their past because it's so traumatic or something was so strong that it's like it just.
Or why should my mom, God left, rest her soul, because she had a daughter that came in questioning everything, and she didn't question anything, and it was quite happy. But there's that saying that says ignorance is bliss, right? And she'd be like, "Why do I have to look at that? Who wants to look at your past? The past is the past."
Yeah, and Socrates said the unexamined life is not worth living, right? And again, who knows? If I was on the ignorance is bliss side, I might be happy as a clam. So again, it's for the ears that want to hear and the eyes that want to see. But in terms of the past, we really take on those serious and significant events and influences, because those are the things you've heard, and that adversity is really the source of growth. But when someone has had challenging, even traumatic things happen to them, most often they go through life with an influence of that shaping them, limiting them, right? Limits what's possible. It's a story that we hold on to, right? But what if we could change the story? Change your story, change your life. What if there's, and I actually have a pretty detailed process, which uses the metaphor of a laboratory. What if there was a mad scientist that was really, behind it all, putting you into laboratories with those parents, or with that boyfriend, or with, that thing that happened to you, but yet putting you there so that you could discover something. Most of the time we move out of those things making hard and fast decisions, but we didn't actually discover what there was about us to see, right? But if we can go, and so there's a pretty detailed process, but basically what I point to is that what if in everything that's happened to you, there's self-expression directives for you to be mined? Like, what if there's pointers in there? There's a formula that came out of that laboratory, Yeah. And so first we take on your past and take on your present. Embrace number 2 is your present, because there's a lot of people right now, and you talk about last year, if there
Not
wasn't
present.
if there wasn't a time in life where people could feel a victim, it was last year. But here's the deal. If you can go through a process like this and actually see that everything was designed for your good. There's this scripture about Joseph in the Bible, what you meant for my harm was actually for my good. If you could actually see how it has now helped you. And again, taking on last year could be a big challenge for people. And yet, if right now, Nina, I said, tell me 10 blessings that came out of last year, how is your trajectory in life different? How do you see yourself different, or what's most important in your life now? What's your relationship with your honey like now? I mean, we could all find the blessings, but the point is, this isn't just about turning lemons into lemonade. It's actually, what does it point to? A lot of people who've done some work over the last year to really reevaluate their life, Their life's going a whole other direction. And had COVID not happened. Now, again, I'm not minimizing the people that are hurting. People
or have lost loved ones. That's not what you're saying.
Ones.
Yeah. No.
Employment, income. Here's the deal. It's not about whitewashing that or doing a spiritual bypass. It is about, though, a basic question. A wise person once said to me, look, you're going to look at life one of two ways. You're going to either look at it like you're at the effect. You're at the effect of what happens. And guess what? Therefore, the wind blows and you blow. You could look at it like you're at cause, like that you created it for some reason. Now, neither one of these are true, but you're going to buy into one or the other. One of them is going to give you some power because you have something to say about it. The other one's going to leave you victim. And so when you talk about mental health, mental health Mondays, it's like, to the degree that we can own what has happened to us versus being a victim to it and look for what are the directives out of it. I
love what you're saying, because it's really looking for the lesson. What is the lesson in this? And if I look for the blessings, there's plenty of blessings. Are there plenty of challenges? Absolutely. But if I focus on those challenges and that's all I'm focusing on and how horrible the world is, if I watch my, internet browser or watch the news over and over and over again, I'm going to think the world is falling apart. And so it will become a falling apart experience for me because our beliefs, as you say, drive it. So that's your past. We've got your present. What's the third step?
Embrace 3 is your gifts, because who you are now and the gifts you possess were nothing based on what you went to school for or, necessarily, the skills or the trades or anything you learned. Life, the school of life, school of hard knocks, gives you certain gifts, gives you certain abilities now that if they're uninventoried, has you not aware of what you now carry into the second half.
And what those gifts are.
Out of a custody suit, I have an ability to advise and empathize and be with people around challenging times like that I didn't have before. So a lot of the things that life has, the traditional way would be to say put us through, but what life has given us as those challenges has given us certain gifts and abilities. So embracing your gifts at midlife.
I love that. That's so true. And there are, through some of my biggest challenges, Darrell, have come some of my biggest gifts. So I think that is, if you could look for those gifts, because if I hadn't gone through that experience, even as a coach too, like you, I wouldn't be able to advise certain people, particularly around business, of what works and what doesn't work. I can share with you through my failure how that can help you. You can share through your experience of going through a custody, suit like you did. Wow. Empathetic, also being able to advise people because you've gone through that experience. So I love that.
So you and I as coaches know people don't grow when it's comfortable.
No. No, they don't. Yeah. What's step number 4?
Embrace number 4 is your values, because you are, again, very different now than you were 15, 20 years ago. And a lot of times folks don't really take the time to really look to see, well, what's important now? And especially if your second half, if we're playing the game that what if your second half can be your best half? What if it's second half, best half? And so if your second half is going to be your best half, it's like, and by the way, I do want to say this isn't about reinventing. It's not renewal. There's no re in this, because what we're saying is it's all been building towards this. You're just starting now. There's no re here. You're stepping into it. But what are the values that you're going to be building this second half, best half on now that you've been through life? You've seen some of the maybe cheaper values that you lived by before. What really matters now, right?
I think that's so true. And also, I think that being able to build on that values and what you have to update your operating system, because so many of us are living in the past of what we valued maybe when we were 25 and haven't looked at that and gone, you know what, I don't value that at all. These are my values, and re-upping kind of how you're living those values today. I think is really important.
It's like operating your computer on a very obsolete operating system. just doesn't function, and it's definitely not going to make life fun and playful and passionate, right?
What's the next step?
Embrace 5 is your initiation, and some people would call this midlife crisis. But what we offer is that if everything has been building towards your best half, second half, your bigger yet to be, and it's not like stuff doesn't happen throughout life, but generally in one's 40s and 50s, some major stuff hits the fan. And for me, it was a custody suit. For others, it might be a heart attack. For others, it might be a divorce. For others, but there's usually this something that gives you the opportunity. And like we talked about, to either bemoan and lick your wounds and live as a victim from then on, which we know people who can do that, or
just a few, Darrell, just a few.
Or you treat it as an initiation. Okay, that we call it midlife opportunity versus midlife crisis, and what if it was your initiation into this opportunity to evaluate, to really look now to see, and if you can have the hope element we've talked about, and if you can have the tools for evaluating all that you've learned, whether you call it lessons, self-expression directives, whatever, guess what? You can start building. Now you start building for who you came here to be and what you came here to do. And embrace number 6 is where we move into your purpose. Now, so many people, are very tense about finding that. And it's
I also feel that even sometimes in your 20s, I always tell people in their 20s, explore, have fun. Don't get so serious yet, because you'll have plenty of time to get serious, right? But I think that's really interesting what you're saying about that in terms of purpose. So many people, even in their 50s, 60s, don't really have a sense of purpose. They might have had a job, but they don't have a sense of purpose.
Yeah, and I think what contributes to that is the sense of resignation, that they missed the mark, that they missed out, they didn't get, their life isn't going to be something that, is fulfilling in the way they see the world, and certain people having their lives being fulfilled. And we always got to know that what you see on Facebook or what you see out there isn't necessarily, true, right?
Exactly.
But what I offer in embracing your purpose is, once you have a new sense of yourself and maybe all that life has been designed to set you up for, and you have a new sense of what really matters to you now, I offer the idea, what if you go play in the realm of purpose?
Oh, I love that.
Practice. Just go practice, as opposed to, I've got to find that piece. There's this funny little metaphor. Have you ever played with a jigsaw puzzle, Nina, and there's one piece you're trying to find?
Yes, back in the day, for sure.
Need to find that one, and you just, everything stops till you find that one. Well, what if you just focus on what you do have, and you put those pieces together, and the picture actually starts to form, and, you may run across that piece at some point, but if you don't, who cares? Because you've already got something starting to form. So taking a lot of pressure off of finding my purpose.
That's so true. I think that's excellent, because I think that so many people put so much pressure on themselves to be perfect. And if they're not perfect, I'm going home and I'm not playing ball at all. And, the lighter you are, the more you're going to get creative too. Because the minute we start putting those pressures and anxieties and hopelessness into our energy field, we start to shut down, right? So I think that's so key, Darrell.
Yeah,
so
and science has shown us that we grow more in play than we do in nose to the grindstone. And so the whole Back 40 is based on an idea of play. Like, what if we could play? Like, we have this idea called play first, because so many of us, especially later in life, wanting to avoid risk, it's like we don't, even start that podcast until we've got every I dotted, T crossed. We know it's going to be perfect. We know it's going to, and guess what? Most people don't start that podcast.
Yeah.
right?
And they don't start. They don't start, then they don't play, and everything. Again, you know, you're watching the news 24/7, and you're starting to look at the world as a kind of a stagnant being instead of something that can actually change. You know, what is it? You change the way you see things, and the world around you changes, right? You know, so it's about how you view it. So what's the next step?
Embrace number 7 is a presence, and embrace number 6 and number 7 kind of go together. I had to put them in a sequential order, but they could have been interchanged because they kind of blend. But to the degree that you're willing to play, willing to be open, and willing to start practicing purpose, and to the degree that you're also enabling yourself to be open and inspired, like a wind beneath your wings. Now, it's not religious. I do point to something, though, beyond you. And to the degree that you can be open for that, then you've got a wind beneath your wings. So a purpose and a presence go hand in hand. And so embrace number 7 is really all about tools to open yourself up for that presence to show up, to co-create that second half, best half.
Yes, co-create. I like that. So those 7 steps, is the book out now, or will it be coming out?
No, we have our commitment date is April 1st. We are building a community, though, even now around these ideas. We have a Facebook group, Back 40 Flyers, for anyone who would like to come and play with these ideas. And we're going to be doing a masterclass, a free masterclass at the end of February. Again, sorry?
I said, that's great. That's really good. Because what I'd like to do is make sure that we get everybody the links so they can plug into the Facebook group, your community. So when the book does launch, the masterclass launch, they can be plugged in. So where do they go in terms of the website, though? How do they join the community?
Well, the website is the Back 40, Forty, theback40.com. There's actually some free ebooks there that they can get right away. They can also go to Back 40 Freedom. Who doesn't want freedom? Back40freedom.com/masterclass. And they can sign up to be part of that masterclass. It'll come out at the end of February. And on Facebook, just search Back 40 Flyers. That is our community that's just getting off the ground. We're having a lot of fun there.
Oh, that's wonderful. And then how long does is it one-time masterclass, or is it for weeks?
No, it's going to be a free 3-part masterclass.
Oh, wow. That's really,
it'll go on the last week of February.
That's really good. So for those of you who are looking at your Back 40, right, you're in your second half of life, right? Let's start to enjoy, let's play, let's invoke these 7 essential steps to really help you have a happy, joyful Back 40 of your life. And Darrell Gurney, thank you so much for joining us here on Mental Health Mondays. And
thanks for everything you're doing, Nina, to give us mental health in these times where we need it most. Really appreciate you.
All right. Well, thanks again. I'm Nina Boski for Mental Health Mondays, and we'll see you next time. All right.